Hello and welcome to the latest Boxing Social podcast in association with Betfred. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest boxing news and views. Today we are doing an Usyk-AJ 2 preview, and joining me we have former heavyweight David Price. David, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Former British Heavyweight champion, I should add. If you want
Yes.
to put that on the end of that.
Former, is that weird to say former? How retired?
Yeah, it is a little bit. People come up to me and go, "You're the boxer, aren't you?" And I go, "Ex-boxer." And my missus like that. "Stop saying you're an ex-boxer, you're still a boxer." But no, it takes a bit of getting used to, like.
Yeah, I bet. Well, we are here to preview the fight that we're in fight week. So Usyk-AJ 2 over in Saudi Arabia, the rematch. Just taking it back to the first fight, going into that fight, what did you think when it got made? What did you think of it, and who did you think was going to come out on top?
Well, my initial thoughts and prediction was that as soon as AJ landed a clean, conclusive punch, or even on the top of Usyk's head, just to wobble him, I thought he'd jump on him and close the show. I was convinced that was going to happen. So, you know, I was surprised myself when, what happened. Because I just thought that the size and the explosiveness of AJ would just be a telling factor. And we were going off what Usyk done against Chisora, quite a lot of us. So Chisora pushed him, but Chisora give anyone a tough night, and it's easy to forget that. But Usyk, he made him really work, and then that was when it was like, right, I think AJ only needs, not only, but you know, it's going to be tricky. But as soon as he lands a right hand, even a left hook on the temple, and AJ can finish fights. He's a natural finisher. You've seen him in the past. He won't let people off the hook. Very rarely lets people off the hook, and that was what I thought had happened. But obviously went the other way.
Do you think that AJ went into it with the wrong game plan? What did you make of his game plan in there? It obviously didn't work, but what do you think he was trying to do?
I don't know, to be honest. It's difficult because you can look and say he's had the wrong game plan from the word go, and he's tried to outbox the ultimate boxer, the ultimate textbook boxer, which I keep calling Usyk, and he's tried to outbox him in that way. Or did he have plans to mix it up in the mid rounds and start roughing him up and getting up close, even though he's the taller man? Because Anthony Joshua's his main power generated in his punches come from bent arm punches, uppercuts and hooks. It's like a tall Mike Tyson, if you will. You know, the uppercuts, the hooks. You've seen him against Klitschko with that uppercut he landed, coming off the right hook to the body, all that. And I thought he might have wanted to mix that up later on, and that was what the plan was. But Usyk's just got his respect early, because I think the first punch of the fight, which Usyk landed, I think he shocked AJ. Now, again, I'm just speculating because I don't know what goes on in Anthony Joshua's head. But from a boxer's point of view, and someone who's been knocked out or hurt badly in the ring and have to recover, you don't lose that memory of what's happened, and you've got to learn how to deal with it the next time it happens. Now, he may well have got caught with a big shot off Usyk, and he's had a bit of a flashback, if you will, to what happened with Ruiz, and he's just gone into not survival mode, but safety first mode maybe. And again, these are all just speculations going on in my head, because we none of us know apart from him. If he did go down that route of, right, I'm going to get in here and outbox the master boxer, I think it was an ego thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that was ever going to happen, and I think even his coaching team probably knew that weren't going to happen. No one's beating Usyk at boxing, just a boxing match. It's not happening, no matter how big you are and whatever else. It doesn't mean no one can beat him, but it's just not at that game. So there's different ways you can try and think of what happens, but you know, obviously whatever happens, he got it wrong. But a lot of us are focusing on what he got wrong, but I haven't heard anyone say what Usyk got right on the night. You know, and what his team got right. And
was it almost a case of Usyk won, AJ didn't lose?
Usyk won. His team had the better game plan, and and that was it. It's as black and white as that, because I literally haven't heard anyone say that. But it's just the way we're because he's our man type of thing, and he's British and everything else. We're doing the autopsy on his So it's our way of looking at it.
And I suppose because he was champion before, and maybe with the Ruiz fight, it was AJ. That was a mistake from AJ, that fight. You know, that was him losing it. Whereas Usyk's a totally different fighter to Ruiz.
Yeah, totally different. Undisputed cruiserweight champion. But again, good point you make. AJ was the favourite going into it. He claimed his titles. But, you know, Usyk, everyone appreciates him now. Everyone knows how good he is, because now everyone's writing AJ off going into this fight. So, boxing's very fickle, obviously, as we all know. You know, but it isn't a state of being fickle in this instance, because he absolutely took him apart on the night. So there's good reason to think Usyk's going to go ahead this time and do it again.
You mentioned the AJ's training team. That's going to be all new now for this rematch. He's changed his entire team. Do you think that is the right move from him, the right timing from him, and do you think it's going to pay dividends in this fight? Because often you see when boxers change a training team, they need a few fights to gel with them. But obviously this is the next fight. He hasn't got a fight in between. No,
exactly. You know, the pressure's on for it. He's got to get instant results now. I think he's been working with Robert Garcia for, let's say, 4 months, for argument's sake. It's not a very long time, but on the other hand, AJ's 32 or something. You're not going to really change him as a fighter at this point, but it's just going to be minor adjustments. And is 4 months enough time to make these minor adjustments? I'm not sure, because I think a lot of it goes out the window when you get it on the chin, and it is the old saying, you get it on the chin, you revert to type as a boxer. You know, when that big punch lands, panic might set in, you might start trying to grab, the adrenaline might dump, you might start losing your breath and getting a bit tired, and the game plan can pretty much go away. So the sparring will have had to have been realistic, very realistic and tough. Now, I know we've done a lot of sparring in Sheffield, but I'm led to believe a lot of it was tech sparring, if you will. Tech sparring, you know, conditioned sparring. I think he might have been in a few dogfights in the gym with this one. I'd like to think so, because he needed to remind himself of what happens when he gets hit, how he responds, and he can rehearse it better in the gym that way.
It is very specific sparring you have to do to train for Usyk.
It is, yeah, it is, but it's difficult as well. It's finding someone, not only to emulate him, it's finding a quality southpaw is difficult. And myself, you'd end up having to bring in lighter weights. Obviously, Usyk's smaller, but he may have even had to bring a quality light heavyweight southpaw in, but it's better than sparring a heavyweight southpaw who's just a punch bag, because the last thing Usyk is that. He's just constantly on the move. He's just a moving target permanently. So yeah, whether it's a long enough time, obviously we'll find out. I'm not sure whether getting a new trainer was the answer either. I'm not sure, because Robert McCracken's done a fantastic job with him. He's lost twice in his career, and you see everything he's done and his roll of honour, his list of achievements. So only he knows why he might have felt like it was time for a change, and you can get stale. You know, it's a lonely sport, boxing, and it's repetitive. And it can be tough, and sometimes you can go, well, do you know what? If I have a change, I might feel better. I might be happier in the gym. You know, again, we're all second guessing, but he seems like a bit of a deep thinker, Anthony Joshua, to me. He's analysing everything that went wrong, and possibly over-analysing it, because a lot of the time it's just something simple, and like, you know, the answer might just be within. But it always makes it more interesting when a new trainer's going in as well for the fans, because we're like, right, what are we going to see here? Which AJ is going to turn up? Has he made a big difference? And it gives you another edge to the fight, so another dimension, I suppose.
Well, AJ's obviously had a lot going on in the build-up to this fight, with this change of team. Usyk has also had probably a lot more than that going on, with the fact that he's from Ukraine, he's fighting on behalf of Ukraine. So at first I don't think the fight was sort of delayed, it wasn't going to happen because he was actually fighting the war. Yeah. But now he is going to have the fight. Do you think that adds, with everything going on with Ukraine, does that add extra motivation for him, or do you think it is going to be a bit of a sort of distraction because there's still a lot going on, his family and friends?
I know, it must be tough. I mean, I was talking about this recently. I mean, the fact that it must have been so tough taking himself away from there. But it may well have been the best thing to do, is to just get into training camp, because when he's in that gym, all he can focus on is training. It's the hours in between training, the downtime where you've got time to sit around and think and ponder, and it will have been tough for him. It will have been tough for him, and it's tough enough when you're in a normal training camp, because your body is in a state of exhaustion a lot of the time, or near exhaustion, and your mood drops a little bit anyway. Well, mine did personally. You know, when I was in training camp, you'd always end up a little bit, and I weren't even dieting. So the lads who were dieting, it's even worse. Usyk won't be dieting, but there will be times where he's probably questioned whether he's doing the right thing, but I think deep down he'll know he will. He know he is, because it's like a massive symbolic fight for his country. I mean, it'd be better if it was against the Russian, obviously, but it's not. But he's trying to give people something to look forward to, people something to cheer about, and it could be like an iconic victory going forward for people to look back at and go, remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and the heavyweight champion of the world lifted the people's spirits by going and beating Anthony Joshua, who's, you know, like the big superstar again type of thing. So yeah, he's got a lot to fight for, but he seems like the type of character who'll just, you know, embrace that. Come fight night, he'll embrace it. All of the hard work's done, and I think he'll bask in it.
You mentioned there he won't be dieting. I mean, he definitely doesn't look like he's dieting. He looks heavier than ever. Yeah. Presumably he's going to come in at his heaviest for this fight. It's looking that way in his videos. Do you think that if he does, that'll benefit him? No,
I don't.
Because he is looking big in the videos we've seen.
Yeah, he's looking big. I mean, unless he's naturally gained weight in the last 12 months, just because he's getting a bit older and, you know, he's just hit the weights and things like that. From my own experience, I know that unless you're carrying quality weight, even then, though, you're going to lose a bit of speed, and his speed is his massive asset, especially against a bigger man like AJ. And I think he can knock AJ out, but I don't think he needed to put that extra beef on to do so. I think he could have done it as it was, and if it isn't broke, don't try to fix it. But again, who am I to say this? Because he's obviously a lot more qualified to talk about why he's done it and if he is heavier. But my personal thing is speed kills, and his movement is what is his strength as well as his speed. He doesn't keep still. He's a constant moving target. If you're a little bit heavier, that means every now and then you might have to hold your feet, and that's when the chance comes for the bigger man to land the telling blow.
The fight is happening in Saudi Arabia, so essentially neither fighter is at home, neither are the home fighters. AJ has fought there before. Who do you think it benefits, the fact that the fight is in Saudi Arabia, or neither of them?
Yeah, neither of them. Definitely not. Again, because of the character Usyk is, him having not fought in Saudi Arabia and AJ having fought there will not have any type of impact in his mind, I don't think. And the two of them have boxed all over the place as amateurs, as pros, At the end of the day, it's just a boxing ring for them. It could be in the middle of a gym somewhere and they just want to settle the score. I don't think it'll make a difference that. Again, because a lot of it's down to the experience they've already got, travelling the world, fighting in different environments, and they've done all that. I don't think it'll make a difference.
AJ brings a huge fan base, especially when he's fighting in the UK. Do you think that maybe not having as many there will affect him?
No, because
it's a huge spectacle when AJ fights in the UK.
No, but do you know what I think's happened with AJ though? I think he's become a little bit cast out in the UK since Tyson Fury's come back and done what he's done. He's not the golden boy anymore. Now, I don't think he likes that. I don't think he likes that. He obviously was mega what he done at first, and him and Eddie Hearn creating sell-out shows in stadiums. It changed boxing, changed other boxers' careers, and like myself, I got massive fights on his undercards, which would never have happened at that level and to that extreme with the paydays everyone was getting and everything else, and the zone thing. So that was brilliant, but I think now he's kind of having to prove himself to people again, and I think it's hurting him, but I think it's also motivating him. So I don't think it's a bad thing that he's away, because I feel like a lot of people would go and watch him and want him to lose if he was fighting in the UK, whereas that was never the case with Anthony Joshua ever. But I think now I'm starting to get the feeling that it's been like the change in the emperor's clothes a little bit, and I think it's a good thing that it's away and he can just go and focus on the boxing itself.
Having AJ come back from the defeat to Ruiz and then having the rematch and getting the win, will that be playing in his mind, the fact that he's been in this situation before, he rectified it? Yeah. Do you think that will help going into fight week now? Yeah,
I think that will help, that he's done it once before. You know, he's put the wrong right once before. Winning an instant rematch is never always an easy thing to do, and he done that coming off a worse defeat than the first Usyk fight. You know, it was a more humiliating defeat. No one knew who Andy Ruiz was. Andy Ruiz didn't look like a boxer. It was kind of like, you know, it was a massive shock. So he come back from that and put that right, so that he's got that in his locker, and I think he will. Yeah, I think he can use a bit of perspective and go, right, I've been here before. I was even lower than I am now, but I put it right. So I think that could work in his favour.
Over the years, having watched AJ, do you think he's a different fighter now than he was, say, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, and that was always going to happen. I think everyone evolves in their own way as a fighter, especially when you're coming through like he was and it was all bish, bash, bosh, you know, 3-4 rounds, blasting people out. You can't really sustain that. It's great, but something always happens where, whether it be, you know, midway through a fight, you start struggling and you think, I can't fight at this pace, it's just not viable. I think something's gone on where he's gone, right, I need to use my boxing brain a little bit more, think about the longevity of my career instead of you know, just using me pure brute strength. And I think he also wanted to prove to people that he weren't just the big muscle man. He was a better boxer, and you know, he's an Olympic champion. Give him some credit for his boxing ability. But then I think there's been a crossover of that and also being humbled by Ruiz and you know, losing his aura a little bit, which is difficult to get back. You know, it's like when Klitschko lost in the 90s or the early 2000s. It only takes one, and then everyone fancies it. Everyone gets that bit of courage and that bit of encouragement to think, I can do this, and everything just gets a little bit harder. So he's had to adapt to that, and now he's obviously a better boxer as well than he was that time, because he's developed and everything else, but he's not as how to say, as like aggressive as an explosive, but that's a wise move, I think.
Definitely. So for this rematch, if AJ is to win, what would your best advice for game plan be for him to actually win this rematch?
It's pretty much the same as what everyone's saying. It's avoid the route of trying to outbox the master boxer. He's gonna have to get close to him. And it sounds like a bit of a paradox, the taller man getting closer and to the shorter man, but it's the only way he's going to be able to rough Usyk up, who, by the way, I don't think will be easy to rough up. But he needs to get close and let them uppercuts and hooks go. I think the long punches, the jabs and the long right hands, I just don't think he can generate enough speed in the straight right hand for it to land, because Usyk's further away, because he's a southpaw. It's got further to travel, and I just think his judgment of distance and timing will take away that. But if he can back him up to the ropes, and he can only go left or right, that's when he might have some success. So my advice would be educated pressure with the front foot, a lot of threatening, a lot of fighting, but making him take the step back. So he's got to have to get his respect early, and then when he's on the ropes, try and get two shots. I think is the most you're gonna even throw at Usyk before he's off, because the third one will be coming in and he'll be the other way. He's constantly moving laterally with his feet. It must be like mesmerising for the opponents, where he's just constant. It's like a pendulum a little bit, but so talented. But that's the only advice I could give him. When you're inside, if he's been working on roughing up, do anything he can to get anything in his favour. Even anything that might create a bit of a cut, that might just put things in his favour. Just the forearm, anything, because it's going to take something something different to beat him. It's definitely going to take something different to beat him.
So for Usyk to win the rematch, does he need to do the same as what he did last time? Will that be enough?
I think so, yeah. I think it'll be the same. That's all he needs to do, because, like I said, if AJ does employ the tactics everyone wants him to get up close, rough him up and be aggressive, he's going to leave himself more open to the counter punches. Unless something's happened over the last year where Usyk's declined for whatever reason, I think he can make AJ miss and make him pay. And I do think, my opinion was last year was that he felt the power of Usyk, and in boxing and anything, if you meet something head on with power, it doubles the power, doubles the impact. So that may be why Joshua was a little bit more apprehensive in that fight, because he got caught early and was like, whoa, I'm gonna have to be careful here, because if I rush in and he makes me miss and makes me pay, then it could be good night Vienna. And I think that's what could get. I'm thinking Usyk's going to stop him late this time, because he nearly did in the first fight, and I think that's what's going to happen this time.
For the winner of this fight, do you think that they will fight Tyson Fury next? Do you think that that's the path that it's going to go? The path we want it to go.
We want it to, don't we? Yeah. I mean, if it's AJ, yeah, I do think so. If it's Usyk, I'm not so sure. I mean, Usyk's becoming a bigger name in the UK because of beating AJ and everything else, but I don't know whether it's got the same attraction to Tyson Fury as the AJ fight. It's a bit different when there's two Brits undefeated, well, not undefeated, one undefeated, two Brits who are massive names, both household names, than Usyk, where it might be one of them where, it might go to neutral grounds again, or I don't know. I just think it's more likely if AJ wins, it's definitely going to be. But if Usyk, I'd be surprised if Fury decides to fight again, to be honest.
If AJ loses, can he come back from it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's just whether or not he wants to. Like I said, I think he beats himself up, AJ, and I think he's frustrated and a bit hurt. He's hurting a little bit, and he wants to win a lot of people back over, as you, of course you would. You know, you've gone from being the darling to being like, not the bad guy, like, or disliked, but not quite. The reputation isn't intact from what it was, and that's tough to swallow. There's massive fights out there for him though. There's Deontay Wilder, you know, there's them type of fights out there. It's just whether or not he'd want to, you know. But I do think he would, because he's a competitor. He's an athlete. It's his job. This is what he does. Whether or not he's got all that money, it's what he lives for, obviously. So, yeah, I think he can come back if he loses, definitely.
Now, the fight is going to be on Sky Sports, but just before that was announced, there was the announcement that AJ had moved from Sky Sports to DAZN. What do you make of the way that whole thing's sort of happened, how it got released? You know, it was the sort of order of things.
It was, so what happened? I didn't see
So
it.
AJ was with Sky, and then when Matchroom left, he stayed with Sky, but he then signed a deal to DAZN. And then I think everyone assumed...
Sky won the rights.
But then they won the rights to show the fight.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
It's a weird turn of events.
It's weird. I bet they were gutted. I bet Eddie Hearn was gutted over that. Like, it probably tough one to swallow. And I bet to be honest, it's just put more pressure onto the whole situation, because if he doesn't win, the DAZN deal is no longer worth what it was, the paper it was written on, because it's not the same. They've done that deal on the premise that he beats Usyk, or they're going to show the Usyk fight at least, and they're going to recoup some of that money they've put into it. But yeah, it just adds more. It adds more value, doesn't it, and a bit of spice in it. And there's a lot of different little stories and little things going into this fight. There's obviously the trainer. There's this as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but mad one. But Sky probably just thought, do you know what? Can I swear on this? I won't. Yeah, fuck yous. You want to take him? We'll have him for this one. We'll see what happens. But you never know. Sky might even be rooting for him to lose. You just don't know. Boxing's a funny old game, you know. Wow, mad. It
is strange. So before we finish, a final prediction of how you think the fight's going to go.
Okay, so I think AJ's going to try and start quick, get Usyk's respect, try and be aggressive early on, and he might have some success, but I think Usyk, he'd probably be surprised and be a bit disheartened by Usyk's toughness, because I think he's tougher than everyone first give him credit for him. And I think the longer the fight goes on, I think it's going to fall into Usyk's hands, and I think a bit later on, AJ will be struggling, and he'll put his foot on the gas, and I think he'll get him out of there in rounds 10 or 11. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Interesting. Well, it's fight week, so we'll soon see. But thanks for chatting to us.
You're welcome.
Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Boxing Social in association with Betfred.